This is the Nephew SIG Release Meetings for July 10th, 2023. Yeah, go ahead, Rado. You can present.
All right. How's the visibility? All good?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, cool. Well, for the organizational stuff like a sprint status and so on, don't really have much to say here. Unfortunately, Bala is not with us for, I guess, next two meetings. Yeah, he's off for 2 weeks, I guess. Anyways, code scanning and checking.
Yeah. I can chime in there, Rado. I mean, I think that in general, right, we're done. We're done with 1.0. There were a few little issues that I submitted changes for last week. Those are all merged. So the instructions that are tagged as V100 aren't accurate. So, but the instructions that are there now are accurate. Starting in V101, we can, because we couldn't use a tag the way that the init script worked, we couldn't use a tag. We had to use a branch. So I had to create a branch for 1.0 and then change the instructions a little. So it's fine. But and maybe we'll get to this, or we'll go through your agenda first, but I do want to talk about a 1.0.1 at some point. So, but anyway, I think things are in pretty good, pretty good shape. I'm going to start working on videos this week.
Cool. Thank you. Go ahead, Rado.
All right, cool. Yeah. So for code scanning and checking, I've put a new subdomain, nephew.io, SIG reports, which currently stores this image scanning results for everyone. So you can go and check them out. Those two come from Gripe and Trivy security scanners. The Trivy makes a bit nicer HTML output, but they basically all the same. I just like to have some kind of double checking when it comes to security stuff in case we miss something. Generally looks very good. Almost everything is squeaky clean. There are a few things to take care of. Also, we'll need some attention. Mainly that's update of the OS of the image, but also there are some stuff, especially in KPT Backstage plugins. If you scroll down here, there's a lot of stuff here, but yeah, mainly they come from the YAML library that just needs the version bump here, I guess. I don't know if it's really this version bump will have to have some changes in the code itself. I don't think there's a big functionality change. It's just a minor version bump, but this will actually remove all the high vulnerabilities here in the app code. So when you have some time, you can check out these reports. They will be generated also as a part of CI. I just need to tie some loose ends for this job. So they will be produced for every image that we're gonna make.
Hey, Rado, that sounds awesome. Is there any way we can raise an issue automatically if we see things that are like above a certain level of severity?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I look into it. Awesome. For sure, there's a way to to script it somehow. So yeah, it would be great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, cool. So for artifact builds, all R1 release images are signed. the SBOMs for them are generated, and security scan text output are all attached to the Docker Hub artifacts there, so they can be checked and downloaded them with whatever tool you prefer to check them. For a signing process, I just wanted to ask, what are your ideas to store the public key? This will have to be, I guess, also added to documentation. So I guess maybe in repo for every image. But also this can be stored as an artifact in Docker Hub itself for every. So maybe let me show you how it looks like. If you go to the Nevio Docker Hub, let's say the KPT Backstage plugins. So if you go to the tags, you got your, so for a V1 tag, you got your SBOM, you got your scan results in TXT, and you got your digital signature from cosign. So the public key could be stored here as well, and also one in a repo. And this in this can be verified using those. So their names. This is just a SHA 256 for the tag one image. So that's one thing. What else? So R1 is out, and I just wanted to ask. We already started a bit of discussion on Slack about the branching, creating maintenance branch for it, or how the whole process you guys think should look like. So that's one thing up for the discussion. And we here in Samsung, we have some free resources for pen tests. So also one thing I like to ask, because we can dedicate, I guess, 2 people to do some pen testing on an Nevio. And I just wanted to ask if I can use the Google environment that we have to create like one VM for them to play on it, or is this fine, or what do you guys think? So the Pro update is coming. I just kept it until we do.
I think
R1.
Tal has a hand raised. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Yeah, there are a few different issues. Let's tackle them one by one. I was thinking about the branching, and I think it's a very good idea. It's it's actually very easy to implement, so why not? I think maybe we should stop using main branch and just use release branches. So the tip of the release branch will be where we're working on. So basically, every time we make a release, we create a new branch. So there would be an R2 branch now, and whatever we have as main right now, I think we should rename it to R1. So yeah, pull requests could happen to any of these branches, so you know kind of what you're working on. So all new work would basically be on the R2 branch now, unless we want something specifically to maintain in R1, right? And the tags would be accordingly, right? So V100 would be a tag of the R1 branch, etc. Yeah, many projects work that way. I think that would be easiest. So it would avoid confusion as to what main is about.
Right.
We could, I don't know, it might like, that's not a typical branching strategy I've seen in open source projects I've worked on. And I mean, it's fine. Git has a default branch, so it means that checkouts are a little weird.
Right, you would have to specify what you intend to check out. Of course, you can always change the default to be the whatever the latest branch is.
Yeah, I don't know. I expect we're inviting confusion from new contributors, but when we do that, that's my concern.
Well, if we don't, we have to decide what main branch means for us. So, I mean, main could be next release. So we could just say,
I thought main is always like latest, and then if we have a release, we pull off of main.
That's usually how I've seen it done.
Yeah, that's usually how it works, right? So right now, if you're checking something which is post v1000, it would either go into 101 or 110. Doesn't matter. Depends on what the next one is, automatically, and then R2 would automatically inherit that too. So I thought
right, but if we, I mean, like I'm not super opinionated about this, but just the way that I've usually seen it done, and different projects I've seen do it different ways, mostly internal projects as opposed to open source, but is, main, and then when you make a release, you create a, release 1.0 branch, and then you do what you mentioned, Stephen, you double commit or you cherry pick back to those things, the things you need in there. But again, I'm not super opinionated about it. So, it would be up to this SIG, which, it's up to you guys how you want to do it. It's fine.
yeah, I think to me, it's just a matter, well, you have to clarify what the main branch is about, but it could be done in the documentation and the READMEs. Right, because imagine
main is definitely not the released, so we know that.
Well,
it's not the branch.
Here's where the confusion can come in. Let's say somebody new is looking at a repo right now and says both R1 and main, and they know that R1 is out, so they wouldn't. It might not be immediately clear about what they should be testing or working on, or
Right. When we cut a release, we should create a release X maintenance branch.
Yes.
Which we didn't do this time.
Which is exactly what Rado was trying to make us talk about. Yes, we should have an R1 branch across all the repos that contributed to R1, that are part of R1, and then from that point on, anyone can, if we have a maintenance release 1.01 or something, then or patch release, then we can take it off of R1 without taking anything from main, basically.
I mean, we have a point in time in repository marked with tags. In all the repositories, so can create branches from 1.0.0 branch from it at any time, if that's needed. So just to see if I understand this, so what you're proposing is to already create like the branch number 2 R2 or whatever, and just commit to it, and the tip of this R1 R2 branch would be what creates the release.
I mean, I'm proposing it. I'm not necessarily saying it's my preferred one, but it's an option, right? That we could do away with the main branch and only have branches that are per release. But John is right that most projects use the main branch as the latest release.
Right.
But yeah, you're exactly right, Rado. It's not a problem at all. It's not too late. We can go back to the release, to the tag.
I think the bigger question is, do we need an R1 branch now? Is there any additional things that we have to check in during this time? Because if you're checking something onto main, it doesn't go into R1 at this point. So is there any check-ins pending right now that should go into R1?
For sure, the security fixes.
Okay.
There are two repositories.
And there's some things I've committed already that, like I said, fix the, like right now, like Eric tried earlier today, and the instructions hadn't merged, the update to the instructions, and of course the deployment failed because so there needs to be a 1.0.1, and I also will have updates to Porch that we released this week that's going to fix some of the concurrency issues and fix some issues we've seen where the copy doesn't work. We're using a private build of Porch right now that fixes 1 or 2 of these issues, but this will fix more of the issues. So I'd like to include that in 1.0.1, assuming we can. So that I think there are a few little things that would be in a 1.0.1 before the end of the month.
But then so R1 is fixed, so we're not like, because we haven't I guess we haven't officially announced to the world that we have released that.
Right. So what'll happen is we want that when the official announcement goes out, the documentation that people are seeing pulls out 1.0.1, right? And then they run into fewer problems. What am I trying to say?
So, sorry, John, do you want to finish? So
I can't remember, just go ahead.
all the links to the documentation, right, that are go to github.com, I think they should be to that branch, right? So, because it will show you the tip of the branch. So let's say we do a security fix for R1. Anybody hitting the links to the R1 README will see the latest version of that README for that release, right?
But that's a good idea. I think that's probably true, but those wouldn't necessarily be released yet, right? So the R1 branch is going to be between 1.0 and 1.0.1. It's going to be in a partial state. Really, documentation is going to need to be, like, ultimately documentation should be compiled and published like an artifact. We're not doing that right now, which isn't ideal, but
I think it's actually okay, right? This is a difference between branches and tags, right? So if you're going to the R1 branch, you will see the latest commit on that branch, right?
Correct.
It might not have been tagged yet, but that is the
But I'm saying, couldn't it be wrong then compared to, like, what are we trying to send people to from the external world? We're trying to send them to a tagged release, right? Not to a in progress release. That's my concern.
Well, since we're at maintenance mode, right, for R1, any fixes there should not be works in progress, right? They should be something that's very close to being tagged. This is actually a good question, right? The process of how we do maintenance fixes to existing releases, and how we tag them and when.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with that for now. Like right now, we're doing that on main, so it's way better to do it on a release branch than on. Yeah. But longer term, maybe in R2, like we should publish documentation along with the tag of the release.
Yeah. And probably the more important part is the actual images and how they're tagged.
Yeah.
Right, per release as well, and to make sure that the code uses the specific tag,
yes.
tagged image. Yeah. Right, so I'm wondering if it makes sense, I'm just thinking out loud here, that in addition to the R1 branch, there would be an R1 dev branch. So the changes would happen to the R1 dev branch, and we would only merge them into R1 when they're actually ready to be tagged for general public consumption.
So R1 branch has tag of what we released. So all the maintenance that we pull out of that would basically either a branch off of R1 or a tag off of R1, right? So do we really need an R1 dev branch? Because it's not like we're releasing off of R1 continuously, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, let's say somebody does a PR for the R1 branch and it is approved. However, doesn't mean that it's been fully tested and everything, and it might break things for users who go to the R1 branch. But yeah, maybe, again, it's how we do maintenance. Maybe for doing maintenance PRs, we should have just much higher standards. Make sure that if we are pushing something,
we should.
It is really ready for.
Yeah, I think probably for the 1.0 release branch, that's sufficient. I think we are going to need to be more formal in our process probably later, but we're pretty early here.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, another thing is because our automated testing has been it's pretty terrible. I mean, realistically, the end-to-end test should be automated and at least run periodically by interval on the R1 branch to make sure that it doesn't break.
Well, I would say that any tagged release, somebody should manually go through everything.
So that's what I'm asking. Actually, I think after we got the call going Wednesday night, on Thursday we had a meeting right before TSC meeting, and I said that right now, from now on, anyone who wants to check in to R1 would have to at least run the end-to-end test. That's the basic requirement.
Okay.
And then so the talk at that time was like, we don't cut it until Friday, so you can still have a window to check in stuff without running end to end. But then now we have tagged, so I think that definitely is a requirement.
So along those lines, can we put an agenda item, not for, I don't know, maybe more time to talk about today, but like one thing we need to do is look over, like right now we've got automatic image builds, they get build tags, but what we don't have is a process that goes through for the EDEs and sets an instance to all those tags. So theoretically, right, and we have to deal with two things, the Docker image tags, and I think that's pretty well understood. Like we could in the beginning of the EDE tests, we could everywhere we pull out a package, like we tend to do it, most of the things go through kept packages. We could run a set image in there as part of our like Ansible that's running kept and all that, probably. The other place we need to figure out is package tagging. And so we need probably a little write-up on how we're going to do that, because it would be awesome if like, oh, I made a change to free5gc operator, and then the CI kicks in and runs the full EDE tests with that image, right? Like that would be ideal, especially if we can take the EDE test from an hour to 10 minutes. Then that would be, that requires that sort of action.
So
it is doable. We can set E2E. Well, we can set the pre-submit job that will build an image from the code that's in PR, tag it in.
Is E2E like, is E2E automated enough for us to run it as an automated test? I mean, I actually do agree that pre-submit for R1, pre-submit for end-to-end is probably a good thing to do.
It should be.
Yeah. It
should be. I mean, there's no mechanism so far to specify the images as a parameter from what I know. I have to talk with Victor about this. Okay. But if there is a decided way of tagging this pre-submit images, or maybe it can be done like a manually. So as a part of E2E test, you will just put into whatever configuration file, what's your the PR number or something, then it will know to pull the specific images from Docker Hub and run them as a test. If this completes fine, I guess it will be good to merge them. Yeah.
So this is going to need a real talk, because there's. Go ahead, Tal.
Yeah, I think we need to set this up that we can also build images for branches, right? So if somebody pushes a PR to R1, there should be an image built for R1, and it absolutely should not be latest, right? We have to absolutely make sure that it doesn't cover the main. Yeah. Like latest should be front. So R1 could be just tagged with R1, right? And also the PR, we can put multiple tags. So the R1 tag would be latest for R1, right? But it could also have, the commit number, etc. There are various ways to make sure that. But the thing is, we need to set that up separately per branch, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Rado has it now. He does do all of the builds automatically, but it's off main, so we probably. But it's
from main for a per commit build, and there is a build for release, which watches whether it's branch or tag for Pro. It doesn't really make the difference, but rather than the naming scheme. So if there's like a V and then numerical value, it will build the image that it's considering as a release image, right? So we can just add another step to create images from whatever branch or tag we think. So this mechanism is already in place and tested. So this can be extended.
I'm constantly amazed by how much heavy lifting Proud does for us.
It does, and we're kind of stretching its abilities a bit, because this was intended, I guess, mainly as a sieve to kind of sort a large number of PRs coming to Kubernetes project, and so it's doing it pretty nicely. Nice GitHub integration and so on. But there are few things that it's lacking, and from what I've seen, a few projects are using Tekton pipelines connected with Prow for the sole purpose to have some kind of pipeline or dependency between builds implemented, especially if those are builds between different repositories and so on. So I started looking into it, and to have the ability to create slightly more automated release process. So we're not going to every repository, and it wasn't like a huge effort, right? Mainly, pressing buttons and just waiting for images to build. But still, it would be nice to have it in some kind of automated way for a few reasons. First of all, so like everybody's able to do it without knowing ins and outs of the CI system. Second of all, we can always in this way roll out the human error here. So that's also something I'm looking into. There's even a point here in miscellaneous. The main obstacle, as I already mentioned on Slack, is to create a meaningful release notes. The automated way from GitHub, it just pulls the titles from PRs, which is not really very informative. And the same messages, actually, the same content can be pulled from by anyone just doing a Git status or Git log, rather. So I was thinking about more automated way. So if we were more diligent with putting labels there, then we can kind of automatically generate the release notes divided to, for example, this and this and this was a bug fix, this and this is a new feature, this and this stuff is some other thing, and distinguish between them with the labels. But it will require additional effort, I guess, to put those labels in. This is also connected with Pro upgrade. The version that we have now had some problems that I've tested this in lab to have the label sync. So the label sync is basically what it is a way of enforcing and kind of maintaining also labels that are available on every repository through the pull requests, as with Pro configuration. So we can just create a set of labels for every repository with just a Pro configuration, and this will be every n hours applied to the GitHub, right? So we can think about kind of what will be the meaningful labels for every repository, and then just use them for various things, not only the release notes, but just to have some kind of distinction of what's going on in PR. All right, so that's one thing. Test infra wiki, I've put the release process, few screenshots there for now. So if I get hit by a bus or something, I guess somebody could, following this could cut the next release.
If you win the lottery and disappear from
probably I would still do what I do.
you'd still contribute. There we go.
Yeah, just I get easily distracted and easily bored, so I need some occupation like a job. it would be just detrimental for me to just do nothing. So if I'm winning lottery, I'm still still doing this stuff. All right, cool. So that's everything from my side. The pen test stuff. What do you guys think? I mean, one VM in our GCE environment. Can I use it for those?
Of course, yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Yeah.
VMs, nothing. We probably accidentally have ED VMs running. I try to go in periodically and kill ones if they're orphaned there, because they're expensive VMs, are big too. But I wouldn't worry about that. I will say that I don't know that it's ready for pen testing. I think they're going to find a lot of issues. It's not.
I mean, it's I guess that's something that it's good to know, up front or something. And actually, the guys are between two projects.
Oh,
so
okay.
so my boss said that like it's fine to
Awesome.
occupy them with something, and especially that the company is also taking a big interest in Nephiro project itself. So they also want to
thank you.
to
Thank you,
Maybe
Samson,
they
for
can
that.
find and they can go in our issue backlog and we can work on it. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, cool. I let them know. So yeah, probably tomorrow I'll set something up for them. I don't know what's the time frame, but probably next week they could just start digging into it. Tal,
Awesome.
Yeah, so on the issue of pen test, I think some of you saw about a month ago, we had a presentation from the Cube Armor folks about their kind of hardened Kubernetes environment, which I think does a lot of auditing, security auditing as well. They seem to be interested in setting something up, but I have not followed through with them. Could be done in parallel, right? We can have our Samsung-based pen test and we can have other people looking at it as well. But I don't know if it's worth bringing them into the conversation if they're interested in contributing or working on this. They seem to be experts.
Yeah, it's always good to have second pair of eyes on issues like this. So
I wonder if it's worth in Slack setting up a conversation channel for security issues and maybe inviting them to join there and kind of having a separate conversation. I'll set that up.
Yeah, absolutely good idea.
Yeah, welcome anyone to contribute, of course.
And there's also one thing that there's a team here in Samsung that also is working on some functionalities, and I was just gonna ask about like what's the contribution process. So they should just create the PR and go for it, or is there a way that they can? I know they've made some like videos with presentation from what their feature set is or something. So
this is for they've added things to Nephio or what?
Yeah, to add the things to Nephio. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that it all depends, right? If it's like, well, we're going to change some core feature, or we're going to change, then it should be something we discuss in the SIG meeting. But if it's like, oh, we created a way to do this with a Samsung network function or something, then let's see it. Yeah, the PR would be great, right? Or other functionality that's sort of additive but not changing the general structure is likely to be I guess generally, right, just from an open source, this isn't sort of specific to Nephio, but just from an open source perspective, like more discussion early on helps things. It's hard for the community to digest a big change out of nowhere. So if it's a big change to existing things, then it needs discussion. But if it's some additional functionality, like a PR is a good place to start, and the discussion might happen there, and we'll have to see whether it has to sort of fit in with the themes and with. But in general,
I'm not sure about the size of it. Unfortunately, I don't I probably should, but I don't really know all the ins and outs, what they are doing. But yeah, I guess probably it will be better to start with some discussion than just pushing it all out. It will kind of set the ground to maybe they would want to change something in the process, right? So divide it into smaller functionalities or changes or something.
Right. Like we're definitely open to whatever. It's just we need to plan together. That's all.
All right. So what's the good place to start this conversation? Slack, or they should just join the SIG whatever meeting or something?
If there's stuff like publicly, if it's all internal, we can't see it, then Slack is a little bit harder. But if there's publicly accessible stuff, then they can start it in Slack. You can always start it in Slack, and then we can add it to the agenda meeting for Wednesday. If if it's functionality, it's probably a SIG automation thing. That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see what people are thinking.
All right, cool. I let them know. It's probably something that's not kept in a public GitHub, right? So that's not that's still not yet made public. So yeah, all right, cool. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, but some sort of presentations for SIG 2 meeting would be fine too. It doesn't need to be publicly available yet.
Yeah.
So they've done like a demonstration videos and stuff. So yeah,
share those. That'd be awesome.
I'll let them know. All right. Cool. So yeah, that's everything I've got from my side.
Cool. Thank you, Rado. Anything else from anyone? Okay. If not, thank you. 19 minutes back.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right.
All right. Cool. See you
Bye.
guys.